Welcome to the Reclaim Your Rise podcast. My name is Lauren Bongiorno, nationally board certified health coach and founder and CEO of Risely Health, where we help people and families impacted by type 1 diabetes take ownership over their lives so that they can transform with more freedom and confidence. Everyone has a different reason to be here. You might be seeking knowledge, support, or community, but at your core, I know that you long for something deeper. You're here for transformation. And that's what the Reclaim Your Rise podcast is all about. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Reclaim Your Rise. So today we are going to talk about navigating blood sugars when you are out of your routine. This is a topic that I get asked about a lot, and I think it's because finding that balance and middle ground between enjoying yourself and being present with your family and friends while also not being on the blood sugar roller coaster is really challenging. Let's just start there. It's undeniably harder for us all, including myself, to manage our blood sugars when we have vacations, when we're eating dinners out, when we are going to a concert, when we have just spontaneous things that come up that were, not planned for. And I feel like this is a perfect time to record this episode because I'm coming off 4 weeks in a row of a lot of that, a lot of choppiness where summertime so far, I don't know if anybody else feels it this way, but I feel like I've been more out of routine than in one. And it's like the second I get back into like my routine, I'm like turning my head and then like the next thing is happening. So a couple weeks ago, the first thing that kicked everything off was I was in San Diego for the American Diabetes Association conference, and that was like a Thursday through a Monday. Then right after it was 4th of July weekend, so that was a whole like Friday through Tuesday thing. Then the weekend after, I had my birthday, and Chris, my husband, and I, we went to Newport, Rhode Island, which is about like 4 hours away from where we are in New York. And so like there was that whole Friday through Sunday night long weekend. And then yesterday, I just got back from a good friend's birthday weekend in Montauk. And so even if you can probably hear like my voice is a little bit hoarse. So it's been like a lot. There's been just a lot of like go, go, go. And tomorrow I'm flying to Chicago for work Tuesday through Thursday, and I don't get back until late Thursday night. And then I have some things going on, next weekend. So there's just been a lot of car rides and plane rides and eating out and walking around and heat, a few drinks here and there, not normal sleep schedules. And years ago, that much time in a row of being all over the place, I kid you not, like it would have been a literal nightmare. Like I have to even just take a second for myself to like reflect on like, wow, like I've been doing all of those things and managing pretty well. And years ago, I would have done one of two things. So I would have looked at all of those things as like and I'm using the words that I would have said to myself in my head. And I don't know if anybody else has, maybe it can be something that's even like more relatable for you because maybe you've used those words before, but I would see this as kind of like a cheat weekend where it's like during the week, that's when like I'm on my A game. And then the weekend is kind of a free ticket to just eat whatever, you know, I wouldn't say drink whatever because I've never been like a huge drinker, but just like being like, you know what, I'm giving myself a permission slip. It's not going to be great with my blood sugars and with food. And like I have Monday and like that's when I'll kind of like restart. And so like that would always be me rolling into Monday feeling like so just crummy because my weekend blood sugars were all over the place. I was not like eating right. I wasn't really moving my body because I was in this very much like all or nothing mentality. And then the other option, which also was equally a nightmare, was I would have either like said I wasn't going altogether because I was prioritizing my blood sugars and I just felt like it was too much. I don't want to say like temptation, but there was too much out of my control. So I just would rather have said, you know what, like to my husband, like, you go, like I'm going to stay back. I'll stay, home alone, or just, said I had something else going on and, just turned down the invitation. Or I would have done something like in the middle where I would have went, but I would have been like super hyper fixated on my numbers and brought all my food with me and had anxiety and stress the whole weekend. And, all of these options were not great. But the second one, I would say the most made me feel like I was missing out on life. And those years that I acted like that and had great numbers as a result, because I was still, like kind of going out of my routine at some times, other times turning it down, but like I was lonely and I was sad, and I don't want anybody to feel like it has to be that way in order to see good results with your numbers, because there is a trade-off in that for a lot of people of just like happiness and feeling like you're restricted in what you can do and what you can enjoy. And after this long month stretch that is just continuing to roll into this week, for me being out of routine, like I was just looking back on my time and range, and I'm sitting at like 86%. This past weekend in Montauk was 88% time and range. Last week was in the 80s as well, but overall, like the past month has been, 86% time and range. And my numbers range from 80 to 160. Like that's what I set it at for, it to qualify as in range. And I'm honestly shocked by that, because it's not like I'm staring at my CGM 24/7 and eating salad all day. Like I'm having fun, I'm enjoying life, and I'm like rolling with it. And to me, that's the definition of like diabetes not holding me back. I used to think that diabetes not holding me back was like doing all of those things and not being upset that my numbers were all over the place, because, this is just diabetes. But like now, this is my new definition of it, and it feels damn good. So today I'm going to share 5 tactical pieces to consider when you're going out of your routine, and one really important mindset piece at the end, so that you can start to see more consistency with in range or in routine and out of routine days, and feel less stressed by the thought of whether it's spontaneously going out to dinner or going on a boat ride or doing things that traditionally would send your numbers or anxiety all over the place. And I think I just want to make a point too, at one point there, on the consistency. I think that is the thing that has left me feeling the best. It's not so much that I don't have, some highs or some lows when I'm, on the weekends or away or whatever it is. It's more so that I'm not swinging to the other side of like half of the week, where half of the week I'm having, I'm in my routine, my numbers are great, my routines are great, I'm feeling good. And then the second I step outside of the routine, I'm swinging to this like all over the place numbers, like that flip flop back and forth and never finding like a middle point. Like that is exhausting. And so the consistency, I would say, maybe it's not that you're going to have the exact same time and range or control out of routine than you do in routine, but that it's just not such a drastic difference. And yeah, it just feels a little bit more consistent, so that you don't feel on like a Monday, like, oh, I need to start over, or I need to only eat low glycemic vegetables or whatever it is. So everything I'm going to share today has really helped me enjoy these spontaneous dinners out or late weekend nights, vacations, work travel, and, all of it while still maintaining, I would say, 80+% time in range and an A1C, around or below 6. But also, these are some of the foundational pieces that have helped the 600 plus coaching members that we've had at Risely realize that freedom and flexibility is possible for all of us with the right tools and knowledge and strategies. I also want to give a big shout out to Haley. Haley is one of our current members in our Decide and Conquer group coaching program, and she just shared this morning a win from a weekend of travel, and I thought it was like really timely, so I wanted to share it. So it's short. She said, I am once again traveling, which is always a fun experiment. My win from the weekend is that I had a 4-hour flight yesterday, time zone change, 2-mile hike, pizza and ice cream, and stayed in range all day. I have a few more days of hiking, so I'm eager to learn from the experience and take my learnings into future travels. Added bonus, 2 friends with me have been so supportive and understanding and flexed their schedules so that the timing of activities is more friendly for diabetes. So, just I shared some examples of how, like for myself, I've been successful in the past couple of weeks, but this is, somebody who's in one of our coaching programs who's applied some of the things that I'm going to take you through today and had a wonderful win. So let's dive into these 5. So The first one is to bring your anchors with you. There is a difference between having rituals and anchors. That's what I'm referring to when I say like anchors, like rituals and habits. So there's a difference between having those to ground you compared to what some people do, which is like clinging to a rigid routine and being fearful of like exiting that or going too far away from that. Because sometimes if we're too rigid in our routines, it doesn't allow us to really go with the flow with like a group of people and enjoy spontaneity. But when we have certain habits that can act as anchors wherever we go, we create a nice balance for ourselves. And I just want to like level set here, like, I am by no means saying that it is possible to feel good with your diabetes and have these in range numbers if you are just going on, let's say, a bachelorette trip or away with friends, and you're going to be like, not caring about anything and not doing anything, and you're magically going to just, feel good. Like, that's never going to happen. So, let's level set here with that, right? So, there are some kind of like anchors that you can take with you. And I group anchors for myself into three different things. And like, here's literally like, as I was going into Montauk this past weekend, which was very crazy. There was a lot of people there, and it was just kind of like go, go, go all weekend. And the three categories are number one, nutritional anchors, number two, routine anchors, and number three, intentional blood sugar anchors. So, what I mean by nutritional anchors first are things that you can have on hand to kind of supplement the eating that's going to happen on this trip out at restaurants or random grabbing of slices of pizza or ice cream or whatever it is. So for me, I that means like I am coming prepared with lots of water and also a few snacks. So I like to have like, and let me, not even just me first, but like, let's say when you're out of routine sometimes and you're with a group of people, they have their own like like just eating three meals throughout the day, and they kind of can go maybe like longer in between meals. And for us, like, it just kind of can feel better going into a meal, maybe not like absolutely starving, because then you're like absolutely ravenous and aren't really thinking through a properly balanced meal or making like the best intentional decision for yourself. So having like a snack in between can just like help curb your hunger a little bit, and come into like like your next meal a little bit more just like grounded. So whether that's like trail mix or pieces of fruit or some snack bars, I like to bring some with me or go to a grocery store as soon as I check in where I'm going. So when I flew to San Diego for the ADA, that's a great example. Like, as soon as I put my bags down, I literally got to my hotel room, put my bags down, and went and found the nearest grocery store and just got a bunch of things, brought it back to my room. And then I was like good to go, so that like anytime I was going out, I just had a bag. I would throw something in there in case like I wanted a little bit of something. It just like allows us, I feel, to go better with the flow when we're prepared. So that's the first group of like having your nutritional anchors. The second one is to have your routine anchors. So think about like what elements of your usual routine could you bring with you. So some ideas to consider: morning movement. Get up before everybody else. I'm a big fan of this because as soon as everybody else wakes up, the day like is, gets away from you. And even if you're like with one other person, just a friend, like you can even ask them like, hey, like, I want to work out tomorrow morning. Like, do you want to work out with me, or do you want me to like do it before you wake up? Morning movement, increase your insulin sensitivity, get a head start for the day. Another option is drinking water when you wake up. You guys know, if you follow me on Instagram, water before anything, before coffee, before food, even before workouts. It really helps with leveling out your morning numbers. Another one is after you eat, maybe taking a walk back to the hotel or wherever you're going instead of doing an Uber or a Lyft. 5 minutes of just deep breathing or meditation, journaling, incorporating some kind of vegetables with your meals or snacks. So maybe this is something that I do. Like, you're not going to, or like maybe you want to have french fries, or you want to have a burger, or you want pizza. You don't have to think about not having those things, but think about like, how can you anchor yourself in what you know is beneficial for your blood sugars and add that in. So like, have whatever you want, but get a salad with it. So that's routine anchors. And then the third grouping here is an intentional blood sugar anchors. So before you go into whatever you're doing out of routine, commit to one thing that you know can be just beneficial and thinking about it ahead of time it can just be like a little bit, more helpful, so that you're committing to it and you're saying like, I'm going to commit to, pre-bolusing every meal. So like that is going to be my one goal of the trip. Or I'm going to commit to, if I want to have more, chocolate or ice cream or just more indulgent foods, I'm going to do it during the day instead of at night, because I'll be more active during the day and it's just going to help me with my overnight numbers and help me feel good, the next morning when I wake up, because my numbers overnight will like higher chance be in range. Tap into maybe some of the tools that you might not use on a regular basis as well. So if you're on an insulin pump, think about how you can use temp basals and extended boluses or even injections to help you manage your insulin needs while you're eating or drinking or staying up late. And if you're on MDI, the same thing goes. Remember, it's not just about how much insulin to give, but when to give it. So that's the first tip and strategy, is to bring your anchors with you. The second one is to be okay with asking for what you need and taking space. This one is so important. And this one should have even like been number one, because I feel like it's the foundation for everything else. So I'm going to say it again. Be okay with asking for what you need and taking space. When we're out of routine and when we're with other people, sometimes we feel like we don't have control, and that the timing of things and the activities and everything that's going on is kind of like, I don't want to say we're a victim to, right? But we don't have maybe like all the say, in dictating. And so some examples about like how I've done this while I've been away. For example, I drove out to Montauk, and Montauk's about 2 hours from my house. For those of you who don't know, Montauk is it's near, kind of near the Hamptons. It's like the very end of Long Island. Like you can't go any further. It's surrounded by water on all the sides. But with Montauk, I drove out, and I was actually, funny enough, I didn't drive out with my husband. I drove out with mine and my husband's, one of our best friends, my best friend from childhood, who I grew up with, and Chris's best friend. His name is Donnie. And so Chris had like left straight from New York City from work, and Donnie and I drove out together. And on the way out there, I was like, I know that once we get there, we're going to be going out and nobody's going to be having dinner. And I definitely want to stop. And Donnie's like, he can roll with the punches, right? Like he probably didn't need to stop and eat anything, but it was Friday afternoon, and I was like, let me just think ahead right now. So I just said to him, I was like, hey, like, do you mind if we stop and get some food? I just want to, and I didn't even say like for my blood sugars or diabetes or anything like that. I was like, can we just like stop and grab something, because I would really just, be helpful if I could eat something before we got there, because I know we're not going to eat once we do. And he was like, yeah, of course, or whatever. So we stopped, got some food, and that helped me with my blood sugars going into Friday night, because we were out until like 1 o'clock, I think, in the morning. And I don't even think anybody ate. Like, I can't even remember, but yeah, like, I think it was, or it was just like we were picking at little bar food kind of things. And so, yeah, like that, just like advocating for what you need and not being afraid of people being like, like, oh, she's asking for something that like maybe I don't want to do, or all these stories that we create inside of our head. A better example is on Saturday, we were at the beach all day, and there was a big group of us, like let's say 20 people, and some people went to the beach, some people were doing other things during the day. And I was with my husband and three of our guy friends on the beach. And it was like midday, and everyone was like, oh, I'm so hungry. And I forgot what my blood sugar was, but I knew we were like just in the heat, and it was so hot, and my blood sugars they weren't going out of range, but they were going up and down a lot. Like I remember going from like 90 to like 150, and then kind of like coming back down. I was on almost like a mini roller coaster. And so I was like, everybody wanted pizza, and I was like, I really don't want to get pizza, but if everybody gets the pizza, I'm going to have the pizza. So like, how can I influence this situation? And they wanted the pizza because it was a closer spot in town from the beach, but I knew that there was this deli a little bit further away that they wouldn't mind getting if like somebody went and got it. And I was like, guys, remember how good that deli was? Like, let's get that, and I will go get it. And they were like, okay, if you go get it, like we'll have it or whatever. So we went to the deli, I got them sandwiches, and I got a chopped salad and some like chips on the side. And they were happy. I was happy. My blood sugars were happy. And yeah, that's another example. One last one that I'll share is I will often, when I'm with big groups, I will sneak away for a bit. So there are times throughout the day where if people are like sitting around for a while, and I know like my blood sugars, like my insulin resistance is going up, I'll be like, guys, I'll be right back. Like, I'm just gonna go take a walk, and I will, go walk for 15 minutes. And sometimes people will be like, oh, I want to like go take a walk and stretch my legs too. And then they, will come with, and like, that's great too. So don't be afraid to lead. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to take space for what you need. So that's number two. Number three is to understand broadly what certain factors are going to most likely do to your blood sugars. So if you think about the 40 plus factors that influence our blood sugars, think about like the main ones that are going to be at play. So think about food, maybe alcohol, environment, sleep, activity. I'll give you a few just pointers within this. So for example, sleeping. When our sleep is deprived, right? When we have sleep debt, our carb cravings the next day go up 30%, right? So it's like just knowing this fact, just knowing this and understanding this, how can you proactively kind of get ahead of that with maybe not changing anything about your sleep if that's out of your control, but maybe just like being more mindful the next day of those cravings and like understanding why they're happening. For food, let's say, you're probably, if you're eating out, going to have more combination of higher carb and higher fat foods. Know how those impact your blood sugars. Understand that that combination impacts your blood sugars for up to 6 hours later. What does that look like? Another one is environment, let's say. So, what's going on with the temperature and the humidity outside? This weekend in New York was madness. It was like 90% humidity. It was hot. The heat makes my blood sugar in particular go up. It increases my insulin resistance more so in the morning time than in the afternoon. So when I'm going to walk on the beach regularly, without humidity, my blood sugars may drop. They may stay the same. Humidity equals increasing blood sugars. How do I get ahead of that with a little bit of insulin if I'm confident in that? So just some examples there, but understand broadly, how you could expand your knowledge around, all these factors and how they are at play. Moving on to number four, which kind of goes off of three, is to take into account what has happened in the past. So I am very big, you guys know, into pattern analysis and understanding your patterns, knowing your patterns, being aware of them. Focus on how all the factors at play have impacted not only your insulin sensitivity and resistance in the past, maybe, but also your ability to stay in more of a proactive state than a reactive state. For example, what patterns do you notice with your blood sugars when you're drinking alcohol? Are you someone who, when you drink and the second you have one drink in you, you're like, okay, I'm hungry, I'm starving, let's go snack? And maybe like that is a pattern that you have, is you tend to snack a lot, and then you have in the back of your mind, alcohol makes my blood sugars go low, so you don't give insulin for those snacks, and then you end up going too high, and then you overcorrect, and then you're on a roller coaster. Maybe that is your pattern that has happened more than once. Maybe your pattern is that you tend always, when you're eating out, to over bolus, right? Like you're always afraid of going high because you're eating out, and so you over bolus and then you end up going low a lot. Or maybe your pattern is that generally you under bolus. And when I'm saying this is a pattern, right? Like, what does that mean? That means that you have done this more than once, or this is, repetitively shown up for you. And chances are, if it's happened before multiple times, it's likely going to happen again because your brain is just wired to do that. So once you realize and you stop and recognize the pattern and you recognize the results of that pattern, then you can start moving into that proactive state versus the reactive state to say, I want to break this pattern and I want to change it and see the result of me trying something else. So look at those patterns, journal on those patterns, and pick one of them to try, or to try to influence. And lastly, number five. This one's a big one. Don't try to be perfect. Aim for what is in reach. Don't try to be perfect. Aim for what is in reach. There is not anyone, including myself, that can go away and be out of routine and have perfect numbers. It's not going to happen. There's nobody that is going to be out of routine and have a straight line. There are going to be fluctuations in your blood sugars. And think about where you're at right now. So if you usually, when you go out of routine, your time in range is 20% or it's 30% or 40 or 50 or 60, right? Like maybe just aim for 5% better or 10% better, whatever you feel like is in reach. And be okay with having a lower time in range when you're out of routine than you are when you're in routine, as long as you aren't completely flipping to the other side. It's like know the standards that you have for yourself, realistically create a goal around what is achievable, and also, know that there is room for error while still feeling good. So, I spent some of the past few weekends with 10, 15, some weekends 20% out of range, but I'm still walking away from those weekends saying, hey, I did a good job and I felt good and I enjoyed myself. And I wasn't perfect. And so I understand that both can coexist. Now, those were the 5 tactical tools. We went into a little bit of mindset towards the end there, but I want to wrap this up with just one last kind of mindset shift perspective for you to take into your, next out of routine moments. So the easy solution, coming back full circle to what I shared in the beginning, the easy solution would be to just, for all of us all the time, to stay in routine. Diabetes loves routine, but humans crave variety and a little bit of uncertainty and spontaneity. And if we're not getting enough of it, we may feel sad or unfulfilled. And adding these, things in can help, whether it's travel or spontaneous activities, like it can help spark joy. And that is important for our overall health and happiness as much as it is important to having a lower A1C. So the necessary mindset shift around this is, instead of thinking that when you're outside of your routine, you don't want to be bothered by diabetes, because let's be honest, you also end up thinking about diabetes regardless here. But essentially, to be more present, it can help to actually pay attention to your diabetes. Set clear expectations with yourself of your blood sugars and also of what you want to prioritize during this time. Remember, spending more time, more awareness of our diabetes doesn't take away things from us. It actually adds to our happiness, our overall health and empowerment, especially around our diabetes. So, we will end on that note. I hope that you were able to take away some helpful tactical and mindset strategies here for managing your blood sugars when you are out of routine. I want to count how many times I said in this episode out of routine. I know it was repetitive, but it is the theme of the podcast episode. If you tune into this episode, though, hoping for a straightforward, kind of like easy formula to follow, and now we're at the end of the episode and are feeling like, wow, there's a lot more to this than just being able to carb count accurately outside of my own kitchen. And, especially if the thought of figuring all of this out and putting it together and implementing it for yourself makes you want to either, cling harder to your routine or just throw in the towel and be like, well, I can't do it, or this is just, too complicated, or I'll never get there. Just know that you're not alone in that feeling, because I can promise you a lot of people do feel that way. I felt that way in the past as well, but know that there is a way and that it is possible to live with more freedom and spontaneity and still feel good about your diabetes. That being said, if you are someone who recognizes that you need more handholding, more support, more guidance, and you need to figure this part of your life out and turn this information into implementation, I really want to encourage you to apply possibly to coaching with our Risely team if you're feeling called to it. We have officially opened up the doors to our last round of the year for the Decide and Conquer Group Coaching Bootcamp. So this is our group coaching program for women with type 1 diabetes. This is the 15th cohort. And if you're not familiar with the DCB, it's a transformative 12-week program for people who want to go from isolated and overwhelmed to supported and empowered, both in numbers, community, and mindset. We've had over 350 women graduate from this program, and We really help you improve your lived experience with T1D by tackling things like hormones and exercise and navigating being out of your routine and fears and habits that aren't serving you, nutrition, all of the things. So this program has hit max capacity real fast in the past 2 rounds, and we're already halfway full to capacity for this round. So definitely apply ASAP because we start in August. I'll put the link in the show notes below so you can learn more and apply. Also, if the group coaching, doesn't apply to you, or you are feeling like, you think you want to do one-on-one, you can also apply through that on our website. But thank you for listening. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for carving out time, to learn more about your diabetes, because we give so much of it already, so much energy to it on a daily basis that giving more of it, giving an extra 30 minutes to it can feel like, I don't really want to do that, but you did it. And that consistency of showing up, listening to these episodes each week, like our action itself. And subconsciously, it's helping you say to yourself, this is important to me. This is a priority. And yeah, if you haven't told yourself yet today, or nobody's told you, I'm proud of you. Diabetes is not easy, but it is something that we can rise above. So I'll see you here next week, guys. Same time, same place, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you so much for being here with me today and listening to this episode of Reclaim Your Rise. To let us know that the episodes we're putting out are impactful, and to help us get our street cred up and let everyone else know that this is something worthy of their time to listen to, please leave a rating and review on our Apple Podcast, send the show to other people impacted by T1D or maybe even your doctor, and share it on social media tagging @Risley Health and @Lauren_Bongiorno. New episodes of Reclaim Your Rise come out every single Tuesday, so make sure you are subscribed to the podcast so that you never miss a beat. Thanks again for listening, and as always, remember, diabetes is a challenge that we did not choose, but one that we can rise above.